This is John Black, Breaking Mad. We're here to make or talk about how to make methylamine from hexamine. I did a video where I tell you how to buy hexamine and get it nice and pure. You can see from the equation up here, if you take hexamine and you hydrolyze it with some HCl, it's going to break down into 6 moles of formaldehyde and 4 moles of ammonia. Now, if you have 4 moles of HCl in that solution, then the ammonia and the hydrochloric acid will react to make ammonium chloride. So you'll have 4 ammonium chlorides and 6 formaldehydes. And that is pretty much a good reaction to make methylamine. You can see how it goes over to the left and the bottom there. And there's a picture of a methylamine hydrochloride molecule. And I don't know if people understand this or not, so I'm going to bring it up about the HCl and what this means when this is a salt. You know, most times when you have a bond, like this bond between the nitrogen and the hydrogen, one of the electrons comes from the nitrogen, one comes from the hydrogen. You know, same with this methylamine. Methyl group. One comes from the methyl group, one comes from the nitrogen. This bond, one comes from the hydrogen, one comes... But this is a dative bond that forms a coordination complex, okay? It makes an ammonium salt, or in this case, a methyl ammonium salt, right? Both both electrons are donated by the nitrogen. None are donated by the hydrogen. It's kind of just almost on there, you know what I mean? And that forms a salt. The salt is soluble in polar stuff like water. And then if you freebase this to get the HCl off of there, right, to neutralize that HCl, and it goes back to just methylamine, that's soluble in non-polar stuff. Now I want you to notice the difference between methyl ammonium chloride or methylamine hydrochloride and ammonium chloride. It's just this. This is ammonium chloride. They took a hydrogen off and they put a methyl group on. That's the only difference. The HCl links up the same way with this dative bond with a coordination complex. And when you separate, this would be a chloride anion, and this over here would be your NH4 cation. Okay, so how do you make it? First of all, you're going to dissolve some hexamine and 40 grams of ammonium chloride. It's kind of debatable. I'm going to put it in. I think, if you don't put it in, it won't kill you, but it would be better if you did add it. The hexamine, 40 grams of ammonium chloride into 200 milliliters of water, and it will dissolve. If you have to stir it or wait a while, heat it up, whatever, get it dissolved in there. Then put that hexamine solution and 400 milliliters of hydrochloric acid together in a round bottom flask that's already set up for distillation. Make sure it's a 2-neck flask so you can put a thermometer in there. Basically just bring up the temperature slowly to 104 C. And I don't mean the still head, I mean the round bottom flask itself. And distill out whatever comes out. It may take 4 or 5 hours, but just keep distilling till nothing comes out, and then you're done. The hexamine, 1 mole is 140.18 grams, 186 grams, and that's how much I used in this in the experiment we're talking about. The excess of, remember, the 40 grams, both of those dissolved in 200 milliliters. The HCl acid would be whatever you got at the store, whatever low sells. It's usually 32%. Use 400 milliliters. That'd be 4 moles of HCl. Almost, approximately. A little bit more than 4 moles, actually. But that's good enough. Like I said, you just heat it up to 104 C until nothing else distills over. What's going to come over during that time? All right, so you're going to have it at 104. You're going to distill out some methylformate, formic acid, dimethoxymethane, and you're going to keep distilling until no more distillate comes over at 104 C. At that point, you turn off the heat, cool down the pot. Once it gets cool enough, put it in the freezer, the refrigerator, cool it down all the way. and you'll see some precip of ammonium chloride. So filter that out. Then boil or distill down, you know what I mean? If you want to contain your vapors, you don't have a fume hood, you might want to distill it out. But anyways, boil it down to half its original volume. And then, of course, you're going to have more precip of ammonium chloride. Cool it down, put it in the freezer, and filter that out. Now, here's where I'm getting kind of hazy here. Boil down the liquid, the filtrate, as far down as you can. You know what I mean? You don't want to break your glass. Once it gets a lot of the liquid out and you have a lot of solids, you might want to just use, warm heat to evaporate the rest of the liquid off. Once you have it pretty much down to a, where it's kind of dry, it's not, there's not a lot of liquid in there, then you want to throw some chloroform in, okay? And you might say how much? Well, it depends. You just want to make it so all your solids are covered, you know what I mean? And you can stir it up. If you have that much, then you're good, you know what I mean? Stir it up, let it sit for 20 minutes or something. The whole deal with that is that dimethylamine is soluble in the chloroform, so it will dissolve, whereas your product, methylamine, is not soluble in chloroform, so it will stay a solid. Then you can filter out the solids that remain, which will be mainly methylamine, with a little bit of ammonium chloride in there. So you want to dissolve that solids in 250 milliliters of dry ethanol and heat it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Stir it. You want to make sure it's all dissolved, your product. What isn't dissolved, filter it out. It's ammonium chloride. Then boil the ethanol, right? Boil it up, make sure it's all dissolved, and then recrystallize your methylamine from the ethanol. And then filter it out, and you can dry it under a vacuum or whatever. But, when you filter it, right, your product, methylamine hydrochloride, is going to stay in the filter, and the liquid is going to go through. You can take that liquid and recrystallize it again, okay? You got to recrystallize at least 4 or 5 times to get all the methylamine out, or, a good bit of it. Now, what is your yield going to be? I don't know. I never done the experiment. My guess would be that you would get about a 60 to 70% yield. I would hope a 70. Anyways, that's my guess. Like I said, I've never done this reaction. I have made methylamine maybe 2 or 3 times from formaldehyde and ammonium chloride, although that was like 10, 20 years ago, you know what I mean? That was a long time ago. I don't, This is what I'm saying, though. Take it or leave it. You all have a great day, and remember, science is great.